It's a first for our nation. Come tomorrow, you can legally buy weed in Colorado. Anyone over the age of 21 will be free to puff with ease, and so-called ganjapreneurs across the state are expecting huge crowds at their pot shops when they open for business at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. And for those who don't smoke, some shops are even selling the drug in edible varieties like brownies, cookies, and yes, even soda. But there are still rules you need to obey, like don't toke in public, bring cash for the pot, and of course, don't bring your drugs to the airport. Get slapped with a big fine. CNN's Casey Wyan live in Denver, where pot shops are working down to the wire before the big day. Casey, I think this is a first, seeing you live, surrounded by marijuana.
Well, the only other time I've done it, Kira, is when law enforcement was actually busting a marijuana grove in the California National Forest. You know, this is a little bit different. See all these plants in front of me? There are 1,200 plants here at the 3D Cannabis Center in Denver that need to have RF radio frequency identification tags put on them by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning before these retail sales can begin. It's part of these new regulations that Colorado has enacted to sort of manage this business. The problem is this store and many others have not received their tags yet. You remember the problems that UPS had over Christmas delivering presents? Those same problems impacting the marijuana business here in Denver. Authorities assure this business owner that they're going to have her tags here by noon today so she can get 1,200 plants tagged in time for the business to start opening tomorrow morning. They're saying if they don't get them in time, they are allowing businesses a little bit of a grace period. I want to show you a shot of the actual shelves where the retail sales will happen. You can see that they're empty, these shelves. The marijuana that will be available for sale tomorrow is still locked up in a safe. So as you can see, there is still a lot of work to do in the next 24 hours before people can actually come in and start buying pot at these stores, Kira.
All right, Casey Wyan, we'll be talking to you a lot in the next 24 hours. Happy New Year, by the way.
Same to you.
Well, remember that I mentioned that you can only use cash to buy the pot in Colorado? Well, it's not because the shops are choosing to go all cash, despite the millions and millions of dollars legal pot sales will generate. But banks and credit card companies are actually staying away from marijuana businesses. Joining me for more now, Dan Riffle, the Director of Federal Policies at the Marijuana Policy Project. So, Dan, let's talk about this, because although, you know, weed is going to be legal for anyone to purchase in the state, you know, banks could actually be accused of money laundering if they do business with a pot shop, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And this is because of federal law. Federal law says that you can't actually accept and process the proceeds of a marijuana transaction, or that can be interpreted as money laundering. And so credit card companies have been unwilling to do business with dispensaries. That makes them cash only. Banks are unwilling to do business with dispensaries, so they have no place to put that cash. So in some cases, some extreme examples, you know, there's a dispensary in the Bay Area in California that's been paying their taxes to the city by sending a Brinks truck with a couple $100,000 over to the city's office to pay their tax bill.
Okay, now that the DEA has denied actually that it has been involved with threatening those armored cars. So let's get to just what we're focused on here about the cash only and what could be some concerns in Colorado. And that could be, you know, shady business, right? I mean, when you're dealing with cash only, there's no record of who's getting paid and who's, you know, the buying and selling. That's going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, well, there's two issues. Number one, for the dispensary and for their employees, this puts a target on their backs. You know, they're carrying around tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, and so that presents some real public safety risk. And number two, from the state, you know, we've talked about the extensive regulations that are in place in Colorado. You know, part of the reason those regulations are in place is so that the state can collect enough revenue to pay for enforcement of those regulations. And when the dispensaries are doing business in cash only, it makes it very difficult for the state to track sales and track proceeds and make sure that taxes are being paid accordingly.
So how do we know that businesses are going to be legit, ethical?
Well, fortunately, we've seen some signs out of Washington. We know that the Department of Justice and the Department of Treasury are moving on this issue. They recognize that it's a problem, even for the states themselves. You know, the state of Colorado as well as the state of Washington, they have accounts where proceeds from marijuana transactions and the tax revenue that they create will go into those accounts. There was some concern that even the states wouldn't be able to have banking accounts to keep the money from the proceeds of these transactions. So the Department of Justice and Treasury are moving forward, and we expect sometime in January, hopefully, that this issue will be resolved and that banks will have a way to do business with dispensaries safely and legally.
Well, it's going to be interesting to follow this and all the other concerns. I mean, even cash only, there's the threat of robberies, too, big-time robberies. Well, Dan, we'll stay in touch. We'll be talking about this, no doubt, a lot more in 2014. Dan Riffle from the Marijuana Policy Project. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Kara.
You bet. Still to come, President Obama's approval ratings way down. However, his admiration ratings through the roof. Our political panel explains next.
Patients are coming in with signs of acid erosion. Healthy diets are hard on your teeth. The truth is, a lot of healthy food choices are still high in acidic content. If your enamel is exposed to acid and is in a softened state,